Hello everyone and welcome to this video on the Python programming language. So in this video, I will show you how to create and plot multiple technical indicators. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about technical indicators, well, they are just mathematical calculations based on things like the stock price or the stock volume. And technical analysts and traders use these indicators and historical data to try and predict future price movements. So with all that being said, I am currently on Google's website. It's called colab.research.google.com, and I am on it because it makes it really easy to start programming in Python. That means that all you have to do is go to this website, log in using your Google account, and get started writing your Python code. So before we begin, if you like the content on this channel, then go ahead and hit that like button. And if you are not already a subscriber to the channel, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more videos. All right, so I'm already on Google Colab, and to get to here where I'm at, all I did is click on File and then click on New Notebook, and then you should see a similar page. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put a description about the program in comments. That way I can just read the description when I come back to the program and know what it's supposed to do or what it is about. So here we're going to create and plot multiple technical indicators. Okay, so next let's go ahead and hit that code button here on the top left. And in this cell, I'm going to import the libraries that I will be using throughout the program. So I'm going to import NumPy as NP. I'm going to import Let's See Pandas as PD. I'm going to import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. And I'm going to give the plot a style. So I'm just going to type plt.style.use, and I'm going to use the 538 style. Okay, so now I'm going to run this cell by clicking this button here to the left, and it looks like there's no errors, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new cell. Okay, so in this cell, I'm going to load the stock data, and to do that, I'm going to use Google's library. So from google.colab, I'm going to import files, and then I'm just going to type files.upload to upload the file, and let's run this and click on choose files, and I'm going to choose this Tesla stock data.csv file. All right, so that's loaded up. Let's create a new cell and let's store this data into a variable. So here I'm just going to type store the data. I'm going to create a variable called df and set it equal to pd.read_csv, and I'm going to input the name of the file. So I'm just going to come up here, highlight it, and then copy it using Control C, and then come down here and paste it using Control V. Okay, and then I want to show the data. So I'm just going to type df here. So let's run this and take a look at the data. So here we can see that we have the date, we have the open price, the high price, the low price, the close price, the adjusted close price, and the volume. Okay, and the date range is from November 25th, 2019 to, it looks like November 23rd, 2020. Okay, so that's good. I have the indices here to the left. I want to make the date the indices instead of having these integer values, so I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to set the date as the index. So just type df and set it equal to df.set_index, and then input pd.datetime_index. Okay, and we're going to input into datetime index the date. So that's just df date dot values. So let's run this again, and now the indices have the date values. Okay, so again, the indices now have the date values. I think this data set looks decent, so let's go ahead and create a new cell. Okay, so in this cell, I'm going to create functions to calculate some indicators. So one of the indicator names will be SMA. So that stands for simple moving average. And the other indicator will be EMA, which stands for exponential moving average. So let's go ahead and first create the simple moving average, SMA. All right, so I'm going to call this function SMA, and it's going to take in some data, and it's going to take in a time period, but I'm going to default the time period. And a common time period to use for moving averages are 15, 20, 30, 50, 100, and 200 days. So I'm just going to put in 30 here. And then I'm going to default a column. So I'm going to use the close price from the data set. And then I'm just going to return the data at that column dot rolling. And then I'm going to give the window a time period. So that would just be period. And then I want the mean. So I'm going to type dot mean here. Okay, so next I'm going to create the EMA function. So here we're going to create the exponential moving average, or EMA for short. So again, I'm going to call this function EMA, and it's going to take in some data. It's going to take in a time period, and that time period will be defaulted. I'm going to use the 20-day time period, and the column will be defaulted to the close price. Okay, so next I'm going to return data column dot EWM, and I'm going to give the span a time period, and I'm going to set adjust equal to false, and then I want the mean. Okay, so let me go ahead and run this, and that looks good. So we have two of our indicators already finished, at least functions for them. So it's going to create a new cell, and in this cell I want to calculate the MACD. So MACD stands for moving average convergence slash divergence. Okay, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that over here. Just put MACD. All right. So let's create a function called MACD. It's going to take in some data. It's going to take in a time period long. So I'm going to put period underscore long here. And typically it's recommended that the longer period has a 26-day exponential moving average, and the shorter period has a 20-day exponential moving average. And then MACD also has something called a signal line, which is recommended to have a 9-day exponential moving average. So here I'm going to set period equal to 26. I'm going to create another period, period underscored short, and I'm going to set that equal to 12. And then I'm going to create a signal line period. So maybe I call this period underscore signal, and I'm going to set this equal to 9 days. And then I'm going to give this a column, right? I'm going to default it to be the close price. And I think that's everything that we need to make the MACD. So let's go ahead and do some calculations. So we're going to calculate the short-term exponential moving average. So here I'm going to put short-term exponential moving average. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable called short EMA. And I'm going to set this equal to our EMA function. It's going to take in some data, and it's going to take in that time period. So that's period underscore short, and then the column will be equal to whatever the column is that we input. All right, and next I'm going to calculate the long-term exponential moving average. So I'm gonna create a variable called long EMA, and I'm gonna set this equal to EMA, and it's gonna take in some data. And I see that misspelled data further up here, so let me go ahead and just get rid of that W. And the period will be equal to period underscore long, and then the column will be equal to the column that we input. All right, and then I also need to create the signal line, but only after I create the MACD. So here I'm going to calculate the moving average convergence divergence, or again MACD for short. And to do this calculation is pretty simple. It's just going to be the short EMA minus the long EMA. Okay, and I'm going to store this into a column. So I'm going to create a column called MACD, and I'm going to set that equal to that equation. I'm sorry, to that to this problem here, short EMA minus long EMA. All right, or to that calculation is probably more correct. Okay, so next let's go ahead and calculate the signal line. So I'm going to create a column called signal underscore line, and I'm going to set this equal to EMA, and EMA is going to take in some data, and it's going to take in that period signal for the period, and the column that's going to take in is the MACD column, all right, which we just created here from the calculation short EMA minus long EMA. All right, so I think that'll be it. Next, all I need to do is return data. So let's go ahead and run this cell, and let's create a new cell. And now in this cell, I'm going to basically create a function to compute the relative strength index, or RSI indicator. So let me go ahead and put that in comments here. Create a function to compute the relative strength index, or RSI for short. Okay, so I'm going to call this function RSI, and it's going to take in some data. It's going to take in a time period, and I'm going to default it to the recommended 14-day time period. Okay, and then I'm going to default the column to be the close price. Okay, and now let's do some calculations. So I'm going to create a variable called delta and set it equal to data column dot diff. And let me see here, it's going to be a data column, and then I want dot diff. Okay, and I'm going to input the value 1. So the diff function is basically used to find the discrete difference over the column axis with a period value right now equal to 1. Okay, so next I'm going to get rid of the first row. So I'm going to set delta equal to delta from index 1 to, or from column at index 1 to everything else. All right, so I'm just getting rid of that first row here. Okay, next I'm going to create a variable called up, and I'm going to set this equal to delta dot copy. Okay, and this will make a copy of this object's indices and data. So next I'm going to create a variable called down and set it equal to delta dot copy. And again, this will also make a copy of this object's indices and data. Okay, so next I'm going to set all the values in up that are less than 0. I'm going to set them equal to 0. And then I'm going to set all the values in down for all the values that are greater than 0 in down. I'm going to set those equal to 0. Okay, and then we're going to create two new columns in our data set. So that's data up. I'm going to set that equal to up, and I'm going to create data down. And we'll set that equal to down. Okay, and now I'm going to get the average gain. So I'm creating a variable called average gain, and I'm setting that equal to our simple moving average function. That takes in some data. It's going to take in some period, and it's going to take in a column. So I'm going to be using the up column here. And then I want to calculate the average loss. So I'm going to create a variable called average loss and set it equal to basically the same thing, SMA data with the period. This time the column that we're going to be using is the down column. And I want the absolute value of this, so I'm just going to put this in the absolute value function. Okay, so this is why I don't get any negative values. All right, so next I need to calculate the relative strength. So I'm going to create a variable called RS and set it equal to the average gain divided by the average loss. And now I can calculate the RSI. So I'm going to set this equal to 100.0 minus 100.0 divided by 1.0 plus RS. So that's the formula, and that's the calculation. And now I'm going to create a column called RSI, and I'm going to set this equal to RSI. Let me put that back here, RSI. And then I'm going to return the data. So I think that's it. Let's go ahead and run this. And let's create a new cell. Okay, so I think I'm done creating these indicators. Let's go ahead and create the data set. All right, or at least we're going to add to it. So maybe I should say create/add to the data set. All right, so let's go ahead and get the MACD just by inputting the data frame. Let's get the RSI value. Let's create a column called simple moving average. And we're going to set it equal to our SMA function. And then we'll create a column called exponential moving average, or EMA. And we're going to set it equal to our EMA function and then input our data frame. So this should give us the MACD, the RSI, the simple moving average, and then the exponential moving average. So let's go ahead and run this. And let's create a new cell, and I want to show the data. So just type df and let's run this. Okay, now if I move over, we can see I have the MACD values, the signal line, up and down, which we really don't need, RSI, SMA, and EMA. So I'm going to create a new cell now that we have those values, and now we're going to plot the charts. All right, so I'm going to create a list of columns to keep. So I'm going to create a variable called column underscore list and set it equal to, in this case, I'm going to do the MACD chart. So I'm going to keep the MACD columns. So that's MACD and the signal line. Okay. And I'm going to use those columns from our data frame. So I'm going to put in column list here, and I want to plot them. And I need to give the figure a figure size. So I'm going to set the figure size equal to 12.2 by 6.4. And I'm going to give this plot a title. So I'm going to type plt dot title, and the title will be MACD for Tesla. Okay, and I'm going to give the y-axis a label. So I'm going to type plt dot y label, and this will be the USD price. And then I'm going to show the data. So I'm going to type BLT.show, and actually I'm going to add in a x-axis label. So I'm going to type BLT.x label, and it will be the date. So let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. Okay, so here we go. We get this nice chart of the MACD and signal line. Okay, so I'm going to just highlight this plot. I'm going to copy it using Control C, create a new cell, paste it here using Control V, and I'm just going to change a few things on this. So next I'm going to plot the simple moving average. So I want columns for that. So I'm going to use SMA, and I'm going to use the close price, and I'm going to change this to SMA, and let's run this. Okay, so now we get this nice simple moving average chart, and let's create a new cell, and I'm just going to paste the same plot again and change a few columns. So this time I'm going to calculate the exponential moving average, so I'm going to use those columns. So that's EMA, and I'm going to use the close price, and I'm going to change this to EMA, and let's run this. Okay, so now we get this nice chart of the exponential moving average, and let's create one more cell and paste those values again, and I'm going to calculate or plot, the RSI. So I'm going to change the values there to RSI and here to RSI. So let's run this, and there we go. So just like that, we have plotted 4 indicators, and of course you can come up with your own strategy and change the columns accordingly, or create more indicators with different time periods, and again come up with your own strategy and use that to buy and sell stock. Okay, so I'll give you an example. If we look at the RSI chart here, a lot of times there are different strategies where the buy and sell signals are at 30 and 70. So for example, if the RSI level for the chart is above 70, then that's an indication to sell the stock. Okay, and if it is below 30, then that would be an indication to buy the stock. All right, so keep in mind that redundancy is a common problem in technical analysis that occurs when the same type of indicators are applied to one chart, and redundant signals can be misleading, although some traders intentionally apply multiple indicators of the same type in the hopes of finding confirmation for an expected price move. And moving average crossovers can be complementary to something like the RSI to confirm RSI indications that a market is overbought or that it's oversold. So with all that being said, this video is for educational purposes only and not finance advice. So thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it, and thank you to everyone supporting this channel on patreon.com. If you want to support this channel on patreon.com, I will have a link in the description below, so you can check that out and click on it. And I hope everyone has a great day, and I will see you all in the next video.